some of the most committed people patrolling our borders don't work for the Border Patrol. Armed vigilantes, unpaid and unsanctioned, are scouting for drug dealers and illegal crossings in Arizona. Some say they're dangerous, but they insist they're filling a void left by law enforcement agencies that they say can't or won't do the job. Here's ABC's Neil Korlinski.
I'm looking for track that's not ours, basically tennis shoe. The scouts wear tennis shoes so they can run faster. Right there, that's what I'm looking for.
We're tracking footprints deep in the heart of some of the roughest and most remote desert in Arizona, part of a high-stakes and heavily armed game of cat and mouse. What's this mission right now?
We believe there's a cartel scout watching our location. So what we're doing is we're going to try to do a pinch on them.
This paramilitary force, led by Tim Naylor Foley, says it's facing off against illegal drug cartels from Mexico, little more than a stone's throw from here.
In position.
They are heavily armed, well organized, and deeply committed. This is their target. Captured on trail cameras they say they've planted. They say these are lines of so-called drug mules and other undocumented immigrants marching their way across the border into Arizona and beyond. They see it as the living embodiment of what President Trump has warned about, the very reason he cites for that controversial executive order to build a wall. But here on the ground, there's just one problem with this Border Patrol. They aren't the Border Patrol. They're an unauthorized armed force called the AZBR, Arizona Border Recon, which we spent time with after President Trump's election.
Negative at night.
Critics say they're dangerous.
They're not law enforcement, don't have the authority to do immigration work.
Do you want this group gone?
I would like that group not to be here.
Tony Estrada is the longtime sheriff in nearby Nogales, Arizona, one of the nation's best known and at times dangerous border crossings.
We're here on the U.S. side. My hand is in Mexico.
Yeah, this is Mexico, right here.
This is Mexico.
Here we go.
He showed us the steel fence already here in hopes of keeping the border secure. And he echoes the Border Patrol, which in a statement to ABC News in December said it does not endorse or support private groups or organizations taking border security matters into their own hands, as it could have adverse personal and public safety consequences.
Nobody vet them. Nobody's said, who are you? You're a racist. What exactly is your purpose for being down here?
The Southern Poverty Law Center goes so far as to call them an extremist group.
There is no law here. That's the point. Who's going to uphold the law when they call us vigilantes? Fine. If you look at the word vigilante, the first half is vigil. We're doing a vigil here. The second half is anti, as in ante up, do your part.
Foley, a 57-year-old former construction worker, is the group's founder. He says his group is more effective than the Border Patrol here in areas like this where the border doesn't have much of a barrier, something he doesn't believe would make much difference anyway.
Clearly you can see where they just open up the barbed wire. I could squeeze through there right now.
His men are a ragtag team of volunteers. We hiked a steep cactus-ridden hill to find a small team of scouts he'd planted, including Andy Poliakoff, here on vacation from his EMS job with the New York Fire Department.
And then you come out here on vacation.
Pretty much.
And you're lying around like you're special forces. You got a gun next to you here.
I wouldn't come out here without it. It's dangerous here.
We have an agency to deal with this. Why are you here?
I believe that they are happy that we assist them in any way that we can assist them. I think that their hands are tied and they're not able to do what they really want to do.
While we were with Foley and his group, a third-generation rancher drove up. No one was sure if he'd have a problem with the AZBR running missions on his land.
This is the Wild Wild West.
And essentially, I'm not the law. I'm just a victim out here, an abused victim, having people from all over the world coming through my ranch.
Jim Chilton owns and ranches 50,000 acres of land here.
So you like these guys?
I like these guys. They're doing what citizens ought to do. We're here in a foreign-occupied area with the cartel scouts on our mountains.
You really feel like that? You're in a foreign-occupied area?
Yes, I'm in a foreign-occupied area.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, this is obviously a shoe print here.
Yeah, so that's within the past day or so.
The routes the smugglers take are nearly all natural trails carved through the desert by heavy rains. They are littered with tools of the trade, water bottles.
See, they use the black ones because they don't reflect like the clear ones.
We also found something called carpet shoes. You can even see them on the men in these hidden camera videos Foley says he recorded, covering their feet.
It's got Velcro and everything. You just take it, stick it over your shoe there. No footprints. You walk. Invisible, I guess, is what they hope.
There is another group patrolling these trails too. They're not smugglers or law enforcement.
If we're not out there to find them or to help them, these people wouldn't make it. As you can see, we have water, we have clothing.
Maria Ochoa is part of one of several humanitarian groups that leaves food and water in the desert.
It's all non-perishable food that can be left out on the trails or handed out to people.
Crackers and cheese and granola bars, applesauce. What are these?
These are stones that represent remains or bodies that have been found in the desert.
She says the elderly and even children are routinely left for dead by human smugglers when the journey becomes too hard to keep up.
So all these red dots are deaths,
Or deaths,
of
yes.
migrants in the
Deaths of
desert.
migrants in the desert.
She worries Foley and his group have lots of guns and little accountability while dealing with a group of people who are often already being taken advantage of.
Do you think they're dangerous?
We have wondered about that. There has been instances where people have gotten hurt out there, not from our groups, not from these groups. We have seen deaths out there that we're not sure who did it.
A few years ago, Foley says he was accused of planting IEDs on these trails, allegedly targeting undocumented immigrants with makeshift explosives. He says he didn't do a thing and calls it a setup.
They actually did a full-on FBI raid on my place and everything else, and then once they figured it out, they went, oops, sorry.
So they didn't arrest you or?
Wasn't charged, wasn't arrested, nothing.
Foley says he background checks his own volunteers, doesn't allow drinking, and routinely kicks out prospective members if they seem overeager and aggressive. He shared this video with us, which Foley says shows him and his men helping what they call a quitter, an undocumented immigrant separated from his group in need of water and help, which they say they gave him before turning him over to authorities.
You know you have critics. What do you say to those people who look at you and your organization and say, listen, these guys, they're a militia, they're a bunch of crackpots running around with guns, they have no business being out there, we have official law enforcement to do this?
Well, when they call us a militia, we're not a militia. We're a non-governmental organization. I live here. So if you want to call me anything, call me Neighborhood Watch.
They call themselves patriots, and regardless of what President Trump says will happen, until the border is secure, they say they're not going anywhere.
If this was replaced by a big, sparkling new wall, do you think that would make a difference?
It'll slow it down, but it won't stop it. You need to have somebody watching the wall.
I'm Neil Karlinski for Nightline along the U.S.-Mexico border in Arizona.